Are you guys going trick-or-treating?
Resist at any time or place. Creeper lay a slap right across your face. Look out. Take care. Gonna get you good. Beware. Upon his lips the taste of pain, venom kiss of love insane. He's got a rod beneath his coat, he's going to ram right down your throat. Make you grovel on the floor, speak up and scream and beg for more. He'll whip you and strip you down. Gotcha.
Hello. That is Wah the Night. If you're already a subscriber to Rude Jack Art. He has absolutely batshit crazy videos, but or animations, but that song is Wah the Night. It's based on an old track from what's it called? The Scat Bros from like the 80s or something. And they had a song called Walk the Night. And all the lyrics stay the same. The only thing that changed in this variation is that it changes to Wah, Wah the Night, Wah the Night. Because, you know, it's Wario and Waluigi. Singing really sleazy lyrics. Incredibly sleazy lyrics. But it's fun. It's goofy. The art's nuts. All right. No one's here. You know what? I kind of get it. Like, I'm just not consistently around as much because of the work stuff, and oh man, I don't know. It's been slower than usual. And I actually was going to touch on some stuff sort of that related to a lot of the schizoid concerns that get brought up, and that I myself think about pretty consistently. Considering that I essentially own a server that's for supporting individuals with these issues. So I do a lot of pondering on the matter, and I see a lot of applications, and I see a lot of misunderstanding, and it's consistent. And so once in a while, I feel like I have to like go over stuff and mention a couple of things in order to sort of get some stuff across when it comes to that I find to be important. Let me see here. Is anyone actually here? I don't know. I've noticed the numbers dwindling on the streams because I haven't been doing the at least twice a week streams right now because of so I feel like it's having an impact. Maybe I'm just, I don't think anything special is happening this Saturday. Well, then again, there's a possibility of just finding something of more interest now. I'm guessing some of the core audience of the Zoids that you would watch maybe lost interest because I don't really cover that exclusively. Even though I am covering certain aspects of it today, I tend to expand my, yapping in other directions. As in most cases, I would say I pretty much said everything I need to say on the matter, but because it's so damn important to me that these people find support, it's something that I think that, like I said, I got to bring up again. And this might potentially be useful to people that are not schizoid to listen, that don't have this particular issue, that maybe have other issues. It might be something good to hear, good to, especially if there's any confusion or you're still trying to like figure out a bunch of stuff about yourself and some of the behaviors that maybe you're not exactly 100% like happy with regarding and one of those behaviors may be social withdrawal or the consequences of it, or I'll get into it. Because there's a lot of conflation happening between something like social withdrawal and schizoid. And there's a lot of situations in which it seems like people are seeing like a few traits and then just making that statement of having schizoid traits, right? Because they check a few boxes on the DSM or the ICD or what have you. But once you start bringing in all the context, it really changes everything. It really changes a lot of how that stuff should be defined and discussed, and how it should be applied to oneself when attempting to figure out just what the hell is going on. with that brain of yours and your personal psychology. I was looking for some background tunes, get some ambient going here, and then I'd like to get started, but there's like nobody fucking here. I prefer a slightly larger audience so that I can talk and illuminate. No, not just discuss. Maybe get some feedback from chat about their own experiences, though I doubt that will be occurring very often, regularly anyway. We can go with some nice drone stuff. I find it to be pretty relaxing shit. Not every time, but like most of the time. Oh, this looks pretty interesting. I would say this is a good one. Okay. There we go. Pimps don't cry. Well, they do. They do. I'm sure they do. Sorry for that one random stream a while back. Just kind of passed out on my chair. Mixed of alcohol and depression. And my situation's been pretty tough recently, so I'm coping. Sometimes well, sometimes in unwell ways, but I'm managing. I'm managing. Now I'm just waiting for a few peeps before I get into all this. It's not like any of us have too much of a problem with little silence. I don't know if OBS is lying, but it's just showing like 2 people here. I just don't see the point. If I can at least have a possibility of feedback on what I'm saying. But I'll give up soon enough and ramble on anyway. But yes, the topic of today is social withdrawal. Have fun with that active. It looks like we got another one. Once I hit like 5 or 6, I'll get started. I don't know why I wait for people. It's kind of funny. It's like it's not like I get like a whole like, but sometimes there's that potential, right? There's that potential that somebody might tune in and that actually gives, like, wants to interact and give feedback on what I'm saying, or maybe say a little bit about their own experiences. So and I really enjoy feedback because I am a living feedback loop in my head. So they'll catch it after the live. Yeah, but they don't leave comments either, so I guess. You watch the Mission Impossible movies? They're fun movies. They're pretty goofy, yeah. All right, so hey, Boyka, let's get going here. Okie dokes. Full screen this. Let's see what I can. Oh, that's better. A little bit better. Let's see if I can make that a little bigger. There we go. Perfect. Oh, no, it's too big. There we go. All right. House of Dynamite. Anyone? It's funny, I'm seeing more people in the chat, but it's telling me there's less people here, so that's amusing. Okay. So remember, I don't script shit. I just kind of talk. So bear with me. So one of the things that's been coming up, it's been an issue for the longest time. Trying to, have this Schizoid server, and, for support reliability, and then having to create like an application process for it. And, one thing that's interesting is that usually the people that get most frustrated or annoyed or angry about like not getting into the Schizoid portions of the server are like sort of like, it just makes me go, oh, that's probably for the best. Only because like it's probably not going to be like conducive to their needs because they're coming sort of from a different place. But here are your sort of classic clusters, right? Cluster A, the weird and odd. Cluster B, the wild, dramatic, and emotional. Cluster C, the worried, anxious, fearful. Okay. So I'm not a big fan of the cluster setup, I'll be honest, but it's one of the things I can point to in order to discuss some of the differences and what I'm sort of going to get into, right? So, social withdrawal, okay, isolation, well, that's something else, but isolation, social withdrawal, why does it happen, right? Why does it occur? The act itself is a sign of there being something going on. Now, if it's entirely negative, positive, I don't know. Maybe somebody just wants to be like, wants to, meditate in a cave for 5 years or something, right? Zarathustra style or something, right? That I mean, there's a question as to what's going on there that they wish to dedicate that, but maybe it's spirituality, maybe it's something else, right? But let's just set that aside. Let's say modern day sort of social withdrawal. You stop once you have the chance to, right? You stop going to events, you stop going to parties, you stop going to gatherings, you stop wanting to go to places where other people could interact with you. You do everything in your power to isolate while maintaining, things like food and water and so on, right? Just because you socially withdraw doesn't mean you want to live like shit, right? So sometimes it does happen. Sometimes people socially withdraw and they like just die alone in their homes or something, or because they're not eating right or whatever. But then there's the type of people who socially withdraw, but they hold down a full-time job. All right, maybe they get a job that lets them be alone most of the time. Maybe they enjoy things at home, like nice food or drinks or whatever hobbies or interests they have, right? So when people think of somebody socially withdrawing, they often imagine this like hermit that lives in this like dilapidated home or something, or apartment. Now that can be the case sometimes, but even between people that are schizoid or anything else, it varies. Right? So what I'm trying to do here is kind of just like bring in more pieces and context as to like how this looks, how it occurs, and why it occurs. Okay, so in the case of, let's just say, cluster C, right? The avoidant, the dependent, the obsessive compulsive. If they're going through the thick of it, say they're in a particularly depressive episode, right? or their anxiety is too high. Social exchange, relationships, and the concerns that come with them for them might be a bridge too far during those times, right? The fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, the fear of disappointing others, failing, right? All these types of fears could become so overwhelming for somebody that I guess would be cluster C, that they will isolate, they will socially withdraw. The consequences of doing so vary. That's why I said social withdrawal is not a schizoid exclusively. Results may vary. Well, that's what I put in the beginning thing. Sorry that I had I'm mixing it up. It was this thing that I had on the beginning. Isolation can be found for everyone. Results may vary. Okay. Somebody that's avoidant will socially isolate and fret about wishing they could interact, wishing they weren't so this or that negative object, so on and so forth. It's, people will hurt me, people will not understand and leave me, and that will destroy me, that'll just eat me alive, so I'd rather just avoid it entirely, right? But nonetheless, they still crave relationships deeply. They still want to be around others. They still want to socialize to varying degrees, right? Whether more introverted or extroverted, whatever. But nonetheless, they isolate because the fear is that potent. The discomfort and anxiety it causes is so high that any benefits that they could achieve from social interaction, exchange, friendships, things like that, they just don't outweigh the stark terror that sometimes it causes, right? Or worry or concern. Or in the case of somebody that's obsessive compulsive, perhaps people's behaviors are just that frightening and frustrating and too hard to navigate, right? Say your obsessive compulsion is connected to cleanliness, right? People are relatively clean, but will they ever be clean enough for you, right? Do they always wash their hands? Do they always brush their teeth? Do they always take care of their hygiene to the degree that you need them to because of your own obsessive fears and concerns, right? Do you avoid getting in any car that somebody else is driving? There's a lot of reasons, or a lot of personal fears and obsessions that can be incredibly difficult to navigate if one wants to have a sort of social world, right? There's certain things that, say you're in a certain kind of agoraphobic too, right? You're not going to be, you might crave to want to be out there with people, but whatever terror is out there is too much. And asking people to only come to your home to be friends or something like that, that might be a bridge too far for a lot of people to keep that relationship alive or consistent, right? In order for you to be provided this social requirement, right? So I'm talking right now about how a lot of cluster C people sort of end up isolating or deal with some of that isolation, right? It'll eat away at them. They'll probably fantasize about having a lot of social relationships. They might have a lot of parasocial relationships even when they're withdrawn, right? Whether it's or online relationships and friendships but even then there's a fear component there, but it's less scary because if you're being rejected, or the possibility of rejection or being shamed by a sort of disembodied voice on the internet is less harrowing, right? Whatever the case. Now, cluster B. What are the types of isolation I've seen? And I'm talking from both the things I understand, I've read, but also I'm sort of drawing from some of the applications to the Schizoid server that we've had to be like, nope. And I'm not talking about any exclusive ones. I'm not going to say any details. That would be fucking horrendous. But I can talk about sort of the things that make me go and my own mod team go. Something's going on. Something different, right? Is going on. They're socially withdrawing, right? They're sort of like have a negative relationship with people, and so they generally avoid social interaction. Why? That's the question that just doesn't get asked enough. And the people that do it don't oftentimes ask that question themselves in a very real way. They oftentimes will project this sort of negativity onto almost every person they meet, or could meet, or potentially that will meet in the future. Right? So someone that's in cluster B that does isolate, you're going to find is usually people that are what would be considered like a vulnerable, failed, I guess the term is narcissist, right? Hold on one sec. Sorry. Okay. As I was saying, you'll see it a lot in something like I said, like they call a failed narcissist, right? Where they will have an attitude toward, they'll isolate, they'll withdraw, but the attitude will oftentimes be, people are not, they do too many stupid things. They do too many things that annoy me and are not to like their standard of what people should be like, more polite, more this, more that, right? People are too incompetent to be around. They do too many things that make me angry with their incompetence, right? People aren't well read enough. People don't know anything. I can't have conversations with most people because they can't like be at my level of conversation, and so they bore me. They're not. It's not worth my time. I'm better off by myself because there's nothing that they could bring to the table that's really going to satisfy me or interest me. And it's this kind of like devaluing of people, right? To a standard that you possess, and sort of consciously making that decision because of those reasons that you proclaim. Right? So there's a certain level of grandiosity there about their level of intellect, their level of competency, their level of civility. Like, oh, people are just so uncivil. People are so disruptive, disorganized for me. Right. So there is a devaluing component. All right. So that's usually when you will see somebody that is socially isolating but has like strong narcissistic traits that they deal with. And oftentimes they won't, obviously, I mean, that's part of the issue with a lot of this stuff. You can't like really, you're not as self-aware usually. I'm not saying there's obviously people that are and they work on themselves and all that kind of shit, but there tends to be also this idea of like, oh, I get bored of people. Like, they're interesting at first, but then they do something or say something and then they're now boring or negative. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, of course. Yeah, active. Absolutely. That's what happens, right? So, that's what you'll get with somebody that kind of withdraws socially, and is also kind of more cluster B in the narcissistic sense, right? I haven't gotten to antisocial. Now, borderline, you're not really going to see a lot of social isolation. You're going to see it happen when shit goes bad, and it'll be temporary, but they'll pull themselves out of it fairly quick once a new person that they feel will care about them the way they care about them shows up. Histrionic is just attention seeking in many ways. Not just, I'm not trying to devalue, but I'm saying like that's highly unlikely you're going to see like a lot of social withdrawal with some of this histrionic, because I mean, who are they going to tell about all the things that are happening in their lives and all the stuff? Who are they going to tell if they're isolated? Right? If anything, it'd probably be like anathema to some of the histrionic to be forced into isolation of any kind, much less actually putting it upon themselves. Proven by experiments done on epilepsy patients who had their brains separated at the Coliseum. Oh. Vacton actually has spoken on this exact thing. Narcissists turning their schizoidism into an ideology rather than it being some innate inclination. Yeah. So yes, a narcissist that isolates is oftentimes somebody that might have been actually, they could have been actively mistreated, or they could have their sort of standards caused mistakes to happen at work or at school that instead of understanding that those mistakes occurred, it just turned into other people just don't understand that they're the ones making mistakes, right? But it gets to this like point where the discomfort it causes just becomes easier to isolate, right? Because if no one can criticize you or do things, argue that they do things better than you, if there's no people to be around, right? So it's an avoiding of that entire, right, that might occur when we're talking about with social withdrawal narcissists. I already went over, for those that just showed up, I went over some of the cluster C stuff, which is about fear. It's all fear. And depending on what that fear is, right? A dependent is probably not going to socially isolate, or they will, for instance, but again, similar to the borderline, once something presents itself, they'll scooch right out of that. All right. And the dependence fear is based on being alone, defenseless, without recourse, right? So they're generally not going to socially isolate. But the avoidant, absolutely. And the obsessive compulsive could, because of the issues, right? Because of their own fears. It might not be social fears like the avoidant, but they could be fears of other kinds and compulsions that make it just impossible to socialize very well. But anyway, getting back to cluster B. Now, this is one I see all the time, and it's frustrating because it's hard sometimes to differentiate between like what is a form of schizoid sort of social withdrawal and what is antisocial personality disorder related social withdrawal or traits, if you want to say ASPD traits, maybe not full-blown antisocial personality disorder, right? But ASPD reasonings for socially withdrawn. A lot of the times when I've seen these kind of things in applications, the emphasis is on loyalty, right? Loyalty is like, people are not loyal. People will ultimately betray you. People will always find a way to fuck you over, right? So there's this component of people are volatile, hostile objects. And so the social withdrawal will come from, I don't want to deal with that, because they're all gonna fuck you over eventually. There's this like specific, very emotional, very angry sort of reasoning for, I'm staying away from people because fuck people. They always screw you over. They always have some agenda, right? And so even things that won't really be like severe betrayals or anything of that nature, right? Say just criticism, right? Might be perceived as like, oh, they're turning on me. They always turn on me, right? And so the social isolation might be stemming, in the case of the ASPD, from a place like that. I stay away from people because I hate them, right? For me, that's always kind of a flag, right? And when I hear somebody thinking, oh, I think I'm schizoid, it's like, oh, why do you stay away from people? Because I fucking hate them, right? It's like, okay. But then there's also like, this is where it gets tough, because there's zoids that like use terms like that as sort of like a coping mechanism, right? Because it's like, well, I hate being around people because people just upset me because they care about all these things that don't make sense to me, right? Okay, see, that's a little different than I hate people because they're disloyal. They're not polite. Like they're not they're going to do something. They're always planning ahead. Everyone's, an animal out there, and you got to protect yourself. That's why I stay away from them. And they're like, or they'll have like, oh, I act like, I do this and I do that. I'm glad that people think I'm an asshole, because then they won't fuck with me, right? And there'll be this kind of thinking. They might not like express it that way, but that'll be a lot of the reason for the isolation. And that's closer to a cluster B sort of reasoning for social withdrawal. So with cluster C, we're looking at fear, fear, fear. With cluster B, all of these have some level of fear, but fear primarily. With cluster B, it's hostility. There's like a sense of active hostility, right? And when a connection is made to whatever degree, it oftentimes gets really perceived as very transactional. And so if the person is giving what they think is a fair transaction and the other person isn't returning it to the degree that is satisfactory to them, aka things like loyalty, that becomes the primary factor for lashing out, but then also ultimately socially withdrawing. Like, oh, they want to paint me as a monster, I'm gonna become the monster, kind of shit is what you'll see with antisocial. Like, I've heard stories, but it's like, I'm gonna make them think I killed myself over the stuff they said to me, and then I'm gonna laugh because they're gonna freak out because I'm not actually dead. I'm just gonna ghost them, but I'm gonna leave like a suicide. That'll get them, right? So those are kind of the things that you'll see. I'm gonna burn this place down and disappear type shit. All right, so moving on to cluster A, social withdrawal. Now, this is why I'm bringing in all this context, because I just in case somebody out there is like, oh, what's going on? Why do I socially isolate? Yeah, all right. Even a person that doesn't have any of this shit, they can go through a depression and socially isolate because of that. Or sometimes people socially isolate for a day or two because they need to decompress or something. I'm not talking about shit like that. I'm talking about like consistent social withdrawal for extended periods of time, and maybe only socially interacting because it's a requirement to just live it, like your job and so on. That's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about social withdrawal, right? You only communicate or exchange with people you kind of need to. Now with the schizoid, it is, well, here, let's just go cluster A in general, right? Let's start with the paranoid. That one's fairly easy. It is fear-based. And it's usually not a like a feeling of hostility necessarily toward the possible assailants, to your mind, to your body, whatever, right? Sometimes the paranoia isn't even tied to people specifically, but to things or events, right? But it is a fear, but it's generally going to look like, I socially withdraw because people are scary, because the world is terrifying. There's always something around every corner. You have to keep yourself safe, right? It's not coming usually. This stuff can, like mix up and shit. But if we're talking just paranoia, it's going to be more of a like, I need to stay safe. This or that is dangerous. I'm not going to engage with it, because if I do, there's a high degree of bad things that can happen. And I'm terrified of them. And I'm going to live my life in a way that helps me avoid them entirely. Because you don't know what's in the dark, right? You don't know. The unknown becomes like an enemy. Not even an enemy. It's more of a, how do I put that? It's more of a predator-prey situation than an adversarial one that you'll see with like a cluster B situation. It's not as adversarial. It is like you are the prey and there are predators, right? And you're not trying to out-predator them. You're trying to just stay alive and run, hide, right? Because fighting back is the worst thing you can do. Then they can see you, and then they'll know you, right? So when we're talking paranoia and social withdrawal, it is my opinion that we're dealing more with the situation like I just described. Now we go into schizoid, schizotypal social withdrawal. And these two are fairly similar. How they manifest tends to be a little significantly different. But in the case of the schizotypal, their social withdrawal might be tied to their odd, eccentric thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors, to some of the loose associative thinking, or maybe they take up some kind of denomination of spirituality that isolation is the key to understanding oneself and all this sort of stuff. Or like they get into like the idea that there are like, there's like people out there that are like, they give off negative energy and then they could feel it. And, it's better if I'm going to, interact with people that I do it from afar online or something, because the environment right now, the social environment right now is like really toxic and negative. And like, it's like, it's not the right time. The stars aren't aligned the right way, whatever. Like it'll be eccentric beliefs that kind of, or people don't understand the value of this thing that is so important to me, like philosophically or whatever it is, whatever the eccentric. I do that because sometimes the beliefs are pretty based, but the eccentric belief is right. And so it's also not coming usually from a place of hostility. It's coming of, it's better for people because I'll just confuse them. They won't understand what goes on in my head, and it just causes problems. And I'll be very selective about who I talk to because this and that. There might be some elements of some paranoid stuff, but it's usually tied. It's all tied to these like eccentric, distorted perceptions about the world and reality and so on and so forth, right? Like, with a schizotypal person, they might think like, oh, you can't what's a good way to like good reasoning for wanting to stay away from people. That's like they might like I said, they might believe that like there are specific energies or something that people have, and so it's like maybe they want to take the risk of finding a good soul, but them actually making the mistake of like they blah blah blah. You get kind of what I'm saying. It's going to be tied to these like eccentric beliefs. And the schizoid now. Now we're talking the schizoid social withdrawal. Okay. So unfortunately, when it comes to schizoid, and I've talked about it a million times, but it is a very interesting personality disorder in that the disorder itself, some of the stuff that's occurring is, in my opinion, sort of what's the word? It's like material conditions related type things because of their cognitive differences. And some of it is like negatively impacting their ability to connect to people they could legitimately connect to in the world. Most people's reasons to be isolated are rigid outside of conscious, so they just see they're socially isolated as a result. Rigid and outside of conscious, yeah, of course. No, yeah, I'm not saying these people know why they're fucking doing what they're doing. I could say I'm isolating, but the truth is that it's the other way around. And isolation isn't optional, even if I wanted to be around others. And you can elaborate, that'd be interesting. But anyway, with the schizoid, it is more tied to disinterest, not hostility, but a sort of almost like malaise and confusion as to why people even need these things the way they need them, and the way it manifests and the behaviors it leads to, right? And the reward mechanisms that are available just seem not worth it. Like there's just, it isn't like it's not an act of hostility, and it isn't fear of others. It is sort of a position of what other people seem to want to do with each other are not the things that make sense to me, and I don't enjoy it. I don't get anything out of it. People get things out of me, but usually that's a mask, and that's hard to keep up. And then, but I don't really get anything from their praise or from their friendship, or the activities we do don't really enrich me. They just feel really just empty and draining. And so I'm socially withdrawing because I don't see the purpose. It just actively drains me without any good enough benefits for my mental health, or toward my interests or my own priorities in life, or what have you, or I don't even understand myself and what it is I want. My sense of identity is so just dysregulated that I can't identify what I even want to do with people. I'm an addict, and just average looking. I'm an addict and just average looking, so I isolate also to mild recurrent major depressive. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, somebody can isolate because of a major depressive episodes, right? Like they might not have any of these personality disorder issues, right? Or they might not have the hostility. They might not have, but they might have just literally just fucking become just lethargic and melancholious mode because of the depressive episodes and stuff. It's similar. Because when somebody's going through a severe depression, they're going to have a lot of trouble in finding pleasure in anything. Or enjoying the company of others. They might not even have hostility. It'll just be like there's no point. I don't want to do it because I am so depressed. The schizoid might be depressed, but they don't have to be depressed to feel this way. A schizoid could be pretty content to whatever degree, or neutral, right? And still be I don't see the point. it's not benefiting me or them or anyone. I used to engage with people online because I know theoretically, intellectually, I like those people, but I feel nothing, and I'm going against what I consciously want when I engage. Now, that's kind of the explanation that I see when schizoids explain why they socially withdraw. It's tied to like the hedonia, the apathy, this kind of ambivalence, boredom. There's these feelings of just but why? Not but why they're gonna hurt me, not but why they're going to reject me. No, it's just but why? Like, when I try, they generally only understand the mask parts. When I show the parts that aren't my mask, it just causes confusion or hostility, which is annoying, and I don't want to deal with it. Right? And when they like me, they usually like this mask that I use, and them praising and enjoying that doesn't really do anything. And I don't really want them to get to know me anyway because this or that reason. Right. So that's kind of how I can find a significant differentiation, right? So when I ask those kinds of questions, I ask a lot of follow-up questions if I'm talking to somebody, or even if somebody's like, hey, Angst, I want you to help me coach me on some of this like stuff I'm doing that it looks very schizoid, right? When or feels like, oh, this is what's happening, or whatever is happening, right? And then I'll spend time with that person and I'll ask these types of questions, and I'll get to the bottom of it. And in some cases, somebody might show up going like, oh, I'm a schizoid, I need some like coaching, and then like it turns out like they're not schizoid at all. Right? I'll still try to help in whatever way I can, but it's coming from a different place entirely. It's not coming from this place of would it be ennui or this kind of like ambivalence. Now, this lack of social interaction and finding pleasure in it still has its consequences. I don't want people to believe that as long as you leave a schizoid isolated, they're all yippee skippy. Right? This is just some of the reasoning behind why a schizoid will socially withdraw. Right? Things like loneliness, especially of a more existential nature often, are prevalent in many schizoids. Schizoids may daydream about worlds or places or situations in which interaction was different, where social interaction looked completely different, and the priorities that sort of navigated them were completely different. And they may fantasize about something like that. Right? They still long for that, but they also oftentimes sort of emotionally disconnect from those issues, or they become long abandoned and in the back of their mind until they rear their ugly head on occasion, and things of that nature, right? Now, what's interesting is that with the schizoid, once you actually give them situations that are much safer, or not even safer, but just much more conducive to how they made, if they figured it out yet, how they would define what a friendship should be like, what it should feel like, how the types of boundaries that should exist, right? When they come across another person that has a very similar set of standards of that kind, a friendship can blossom. Maybe it's not constantly hanging out, or maybe it's long periods of lack of communication. Maybe it's just all they need is just that one or two people that can understand them, and that's it. Like that, they're good. Um, and when they actually have an opportunity to see this, that's when some of the schizoid fears start kicking off, the intimacy ones, right? Because that's when some of the issues of engulfment stuff start really. It just because it's like, because through the process of having this sort of ambivalence and frustration with social interaction, they've made the entire act itself sort of negative. It's mired in inconvenient, frustrating ideas that they don't resonate with. Right. So they'll have a lot of negative associations to the abstraction almost of the idea of closeness and friendship. Right. It'll be like, oh, it's just going to be nothing again. Oh, it's just going to be disappointing and just, it's going to feel empty again. It's going to be me masking again, and me maybe attempting to show a little of myself, and then that being regarded in a strange way, or in a way that disappoints them because it's not to the standard of the mask that I made. All this sort of shit, right? And so some of those, like I'm wasting my time again, I'm a fool, what am I doing, all those sorts of discomforts start bubbling, right? Is this person going to have all these expectations of me? Do they feel like I have expectations of them? What are they going to do in response to that? What do they expect me to do in response to their expectations? So like, it's these sorts of things in which the actual fear is, but the schizoid oftentimes won't they really won't they won't discuss it that way. When you ask them why they stay away from people, they're not going to tell you that, usually, unless they're very self-aware. A less self-aware zoid is just going to tell you I'm ambivalent, I'm indifferent, I don't get why they want to do what they do, I don't get anything out of it. They'll have that. But like, some of the core actual fears have to do with autonomy sensitivity, ultimately. Is someone, something else going to control me, perceive and then change me, force me to be something I'm not, shit like that. Well, see, that's what's interesting, Mega Cancer, is that when schizoids do find a type of social interaction that is pleasurable, even to maybe not to, like, it's maybe like, because that's the thing with the schizoid, even if they find like pleasurable social things, it might not make it to their top 3 things that are most important to them, right? It might actually, I feel like a schizoid gets a lot out of a relationship if it facilitates whatever their top 3 things are, right? So so when they have that kind of relationship happen, that's when there's this like weird hope, and then the hope turns into like a fear sometimes of like the if you don't hope for anything, you can't be disappointed, kind of thing. Or all relationships, like the fear of all relationships ultimately end up being like these one-sided compromises that just drain me and tire me and make me feel ruined, right? And this is why I constantly bring up, in the past I used to, but recently I've been talking about other subjects, but why I bring up that the agency or connection, but not both. See, but you can have both, because you would just have to connect with somebody that also prioritizes agency to a significant degree. That's kind of what it takes, right? Or somebody that will respect your priority of agency, over other things. When agency becomes everything, then you have that's where the disorder comes in. That's when having these schizoid traits become like a full-blown disorder, is when you prioritize autonomy and autonomy alone, due to that autonomy sensitivity, and then it comes at the cost of like everything else. Right? You almost want to become autonomous of your own like emotional range. It's not a conscious thing, but because yeah, oftentimes I'll hear the cope of like, oh, because emotions just lead to mistakes and stuff and blah blah blah, this kind of cope. But yes, and like I've said in the past, I have friends now. I didn't really. I've had people I knew. I had people I did activities with, but again, in the past, it was generally they were just kind of interacting with my mask, and that mask was just kind of nerdy, goofy, funny, whatever, like chill. Right now, I have a weird mindset of they want me to have boundaries and be a person, thus I do in my attachment. Still trying to find suitable time to deal with this. Yeah, well, yeah, that is a common one. Yeah, and like that, and that's interesting. That's why like Zoids tend to differ significantly. Some Zoids have very established boundaries, but those boundaries are so rigid that it causes them to like also undergo like some pretty ego dystonic shit. And then you have the Zoids that are so ambivalent that their boundaries are just poop. And so they just kind of like don't care what happens to them, and they're just like, I don't know what I want anyway, so I'll just whatever. Like, just leave me alone. I don't. What do you want me to do? Just leave me alone. Like, I'll do it all. Right. Yeah, and not asking anyone for help for anything. Again, why? Right? Somebody that doesn't ask for help for anything could be avoidant, could be antisocial, could be narcissistic, could be paranoid, could be schizoid. It's why. Why don't you ask others for help, right? An antisocial person might not want to ask others for help because they will ultimately fuck it up for you, or betray you, or be disloyal, or try to take what they feel is theirs from you, right? That would be why I don't ask for help, because they're gonna always find a way to fuck me over or something, or find a way in to get something from me, right? So a narcissistic approach would be, I don't ask people for help because they're generally incompetent and I could do it better myself, right? Stuff like that. It's about the why. And like an avoidant, why don't you ask anyone for help? Avoidant, oh well, because I if I ask them for help, then they might want help and I might not be good enough to succeed in the help, and I'll disappoint them and they'll reject me. Or I won't be able to give them the help they need. So I'd rather just not get help because now I feel like I owe them help, and maybe I can't live up to like what that help is. And that fear of like they will reject me because I am not competent. I am not as helpful as they were. And that why is very important. And the schizoid why don't you ask people for help usually? Well, because when you ask people for help, they tend to think that now you have this established like rapport connection with them, right? And then I'll also have to think about like how I owe them something, because that I'll feel responsible, like, well, you did something for me, now I guess there's something I need to do for you, but I don't know what that is, and I don't want that hanging over my head, and it'll be like like these like really over thought out conundrums of as to or they might then like ask something of me that kind of fucks with like what I'm about, and then there'll be this weird thing where if I reject them, they can bring up that they did a favor for me, and it's just not worth the hassle, not worth the mess. I'd rather just do it all myself. I don't want to play this weird social game of who owes who and who helps who more, all that stuff. That's the kind of reasoning you might get out of a schizoid to why they don't ask for help, because it comes with all these like social strings and things and expectations and associations, things that like basically make you feel like you're being like controlled or manipulated by like all this stuff that doesn't make sense to you, that you don't want to take part in. So in order to avoid that entirely, you just don't ask for help. Right. So that's kind of what I'm saying, right? The why is so fucking important. And it's one of the things that it seems like nobody's asking when it comes to, especially when it comes to them trying to figure out their own shit. When it comes to them trying to figure out their own shit, right? I think I would rather suffer and take care of problems myself. Yeah, because the discomfort of having no one to help you, the inconvenience that causes, still causes less discomfort than the inconvenience or consequences of asking for help that you perceive will occur, right? And what those problems are will define sort of where your reasoning is. The schizoid doesn't want to deal with social hangups, strings. They want to be left alone, peace of mind, neutral. If I do everything myself, there's no conflicts I have to deal with that I am indifferent to or just find abhorrent or frustrating, or just I'll just do it all myself. It's nothing personal. I don't hate them. It's just there are factors that that are unknown, and I just don't want to. I don't want to have to factor those factors in, because they're going to drain me. They're going to do this. That other person might be far more emotional than me, and so then because of that, like, they're going to be expecting a certain level of support that I can't provide, and that's going to require me masking, and I don't like doing that because it's exhausting. But also, it's the only ethical thing I can do, because I also am not looking to hurt people either. Shit like that. There'll be like these really convoluted explanations as to why it's better to socially withdraw, to do everything yourself, to be as independent or whatever as possible, to be as perceived as little as possible, to be perceived in these ways that get you left alone, allow you to be isolated, allow you to have more time by yourself. What the hell is this shitty music? That's not my cool drone. What is this crap? What is this ping, man? Give me my drone. Here, I'll move some ghost wave spirits and Kanto. Anyway, so yeah, so that's I hope that for those listening, you got something out of being able to differentiate some of this stuff. And this question of why really comes down to like everything in how you're kind of trying to figure out, what the fuck are you doing? Why the fuck are you doing what you're doing? Right? So the issue becomes is that performative appreciation also sucks. Hell yeah. It's just because but that's the thing, like, because a lot of even sincere appreciation to the schizoid might not do anything anyway. And performative appreciation just reminds them of some weird social aspects that just I don't understand why people bother or why they do them or whatever. But also it could cause, like, you could have like distortions of what's happening, in the sense that, like, I've seen a lot of schizoids believe that, like, oh, people are just they just do all this stuff because it's what you're supposed to do, and I just don't want to do it because of that, right? But no, like, a lot of people do performative appreciation, as it's called, because it's like a natural thing. It's a social mechanism of sort of checking safety of the other person. Like things like thank you and please are sort of just social checks. Is this person safe to be around? Is this person civil? Is this person going to be harmful to me socially in some way or another? And that stuff is it's just running on autopilot for a lot of people. They're not sitting around thinking about it. They don't sit around going like, oh, why do I just say thank you all the time to stuff that maybe I don't really have to? Or why do I say excuse me? Or why do I, like, you know, there's like a lot of this stuff. They don't sit around thinking about why they do it. It's normal. It's natural. It feels right. That's what I'm talking about, Voika. See, like, that's not true. Like, some aspects, sure, there's some social engineering involved, but it's gonna come up no matter what. Social niceties are normal. They make no sense to me in many ways. I impulsively done them because I know the requirements. I'm aware of the requirements. But I've always had that question in my head of, like, why does everyone always have to say goodbye when somebody, or why does everyone always have to announce when they're leaving? Or you know, like, it's very normal and natural for people on average. It's not some, like schizoids will often see social stuff as games, like social games people play, these weird social games. They don't see it like a game. Usually, they're just living life, and that's just life. They don't see all the strings. They don't bother thinking about them. They're just living life. The schizoid thinks about them because he has no choice. Because he has to navigate this shit somehow. And that's why I always bring up that the schizoid is just a particular type of neurodivergent person, whether autistic or more on the schizo side of things, depending on their type of thinking, microsociative thinking, that differs so much cognitively from the average person that that's how they cope. That's how they managed. Just guess my emotions, not really a factor here. Connections with other people, don't want them, don't need them, because they just don't do anything that makes sense to me. It's all about, I feel like the schizoid is all about living in a world that feels alien and doesn't make sense to you, and then just checking out. And again, that's why I think that neurodivergent people need their own set of, like, descriptions, therapy, psychology, personality disorders. I think neurodivergent people develop personality disorders, or whatever you want to call them, however you want to, defenses, adaptations that are unique to that experience. That's what I really believe that. And I believe that the schizoid is one of those instantiations. I think a lot of the cluster A are some of those instantiations. That's why they're under weird and odd, because they're conditions that occur due to those circumstances of the world feeling weird, scary, confusing, sometimes hostile in confusing ways. Not in hostile in ways that make sense to you. Hostile in ways that are like, I don't understand the rules of these weird games and stuff. I gotta figure it out. Maybe I'm broken, my brain don't work or something, because everyone seems to be enjoying all this stuff, and I don't want to do it. But now I gotta do it. I gotta do all the things. I'm confused, but I gotta do it. Because otherwise, you know, I can't live, I guess. I don't even know if I want to sometimes, because I gotta do all this stuff that makes me feel like I'm not real or something. Like, it's just, and that experience is really common in general for neurodivergent people, right? It's a very common experience. And it's that experience as to why people that are autistic on the schizo side of things, ADHD side of things, which that's a whole different bag, end up often with mental health issues. It's not the cognitive differences that generally cause a lot of the mental health issues. It's the interacting with the world as it currently stands, and the requirements it has for the neurodivergent person that they cannot circumvent and essentially must adhere to, because majority rules, and most rules and everything is constructed under normative shit. The average sort of social contracts, the average social agreements about various things. And the neurodivergent person is just like, I don't want to agree to, I didn't consent to live here. I don't understand any of this shit. This shit don't make sense to me. It's weird. And how they cope with that, how they deal with that. You're gonna have either highly anxious people, usually highly paranoid people, or highly sort of checked out schizoid people. If they grew up with like a very like if they grew up with people, around people that had a similar cognitive sort of experience about life and things in their lives, then that's how you end up with a much healthier neurodivergent person. Because that big existential hole is partially filled. And you have somebody that attempts to understand that your perspective of the world is not something you chose. Well, not perspective, but your experience with what you prioritize or what feels important to you or what scares you or what upsets you. Like, those things are not... if they stop being looked at through a normative lens and through a more metacognitive lens, yeah, that's how you get a much healthier neurodivergent person that won't end up highly anxious, highly detached. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Like, it's just crazy to me. Like, people used to just think that, like, autistic people were psychopaths, autistic people were narcissists, right? It's like, no, they just have a different set of priorities, and they're running a different code, man. Like, here, let me give you a really good example, because I am gonna jam, but here, you're gonna like this example. So there was this video I saw earlier today of a kid that, like, destroyed all these Guinness Book of World Record, like, math things, right? The kid, essentially, he broke the record for adding together 100 numbers in the shortest amount of time possible and getting that answer correctly. So what they did is they flashed at a certain, because you can control, I guess, the speed in which they flash, and they set it to the above the record-breaking speed, and 100 different numbers flashed at the same interval and by the end he has to just type in the sum of all those numbers, and they were 4-digit numbers, right? So 4-digit numbers, or 4, you know, whatever you want to call it, single comma numbers, and they were just like boop 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 100. And the entire time the kid's like he's like stimming, like he's doing like this with his hands, he's like counting. It's like something that helps him count whatever it is, or like helps calm him while he counts. I don't know his reasoning, but he wasn't doing anything that seemed like numerical in nature with his fingers. Or maybe it was something that made sense to him, but like he was going like this, like as the numbers would flash, he would like do this stuff with his hands, right? And it was like helping him somehow, right? And so, and then like when he won, when they said he got the record, he wasn't like, yeah, right? No, they said you did it, and he was like, like that was his reaction to breaking his record. It was like, cool. Everyone, like the audience was like, woo! The host sounded way more excited, whatever, the person that, but he was just like, yeah, like yippee, kind of abacus fingers. Well, like, so like he was doing that, he was like, it essentially looked like swimming. And I was showing my buddy who is autistic, and he brought up a very valid point, and I agreed. It was that if you looked at the comments, if you looked at the stuff I guess they were saying and things like that, people were saying like, oh, you know, this is what dedication and grinding does, and like, instead of, you know, out there just wasting your time doing this kid's like doing math stuff, and that's what, like, you know, this is what real intelligence looks like, and all this shit, like all this shit, right? It was just being projected onto this fucking kid, and all this kid was doing was what probably was fun. Like, this is their special interest. This is just like something they find enjoyable, something they find some sense of comfort or enjoyment from, or whatever. This was not some fucking kid that was grinding to become a champion. That's how they fucking described it. That's how a lot of people were talking about. Like, wow, this kid is so smart and dedicated to his craft type shit. It's like, nah, man, this is like one of their things that they do. It's no different than like, yeah, I've seen the abacus being done by Classroom of Kids in India. Is it? I don't know. Are you sure? I don't know. It doesn't look like counting. I mean, I don't know how an abacus would help you add up numbers that quickly. How the fingers, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But the point is, like, why does that have to be painted in that way? Of just, this is what real dedication and grinding looks like. That kid looked like he was having fun. That kid looked like he was just doing what he likes to do. And he gave off this kind of somewhat socially awkward kind of vibe. Yeah, it's like getting like autistically fascinated with yo-yo tricks. Becoming like, and then getting that yo-yo kid and then be like, look at, oh my god, he's the greatest yo-yo champion ever, and he's just doing yo-yo shit because he loves yo-yos, and he likes yo-yo tricks, and he wants to get really good at yo-yo tricks because he thinks they're really cool. And like, I don't know how many times you've seen, how many videos you've ever watched of somebody like that wins certain types of championships and stuff, and the mindset isn't like, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna be the best, I'm gonna like that's not the mindset. but that'll get all projected onto them. All this kind of social status related stuff that is very normal, very fine for, you know, a lot of neurotypical people. Like, it's just okay. That's a normal thing to feel for them. But they'll project it onto neurodivergent people that get really good at stuff. When oftentimes neurodivergent people that get good at something, they'll have like very, what would be idiosyncratic or kind of unique reasoning for why they got good at it. And it's generally not status seeking. It's generally not being the best. Yeah, I feel that was helped me develop such bad symptoms in these times. When I found other weird people and it went well, it gave me hope to latch on to. The success was very limited in scope and very hard to repeat for me. So it feels hard to have any of it feel it makes small contribution to a foundation that heals. Yeah. No, yeah, it's a bit by bit process. I didn't accomplish the connections that I now have by like just, oh, you know, I found cool people, now we're friends, there's weirdos like me, yay, you know. No, it was a process. There's still a lot of hesitation, there's still a lot of and the way like it developed was those people also having an interest in seeing what these type of possibilities are real, and then being able to openly, sincerely discuss the discomforts. And there would be like sometimes sensitivity, autonomy, sensitivity related reassurances from each other. Yeah, like reassuring, like, no, I don't have these expectations. I don't have these expectations. And you're like, okay, I don't either. Yeah. Okay, this is weird. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's that. And it's a process. And you know, if two people that have these kind of defenses establish a connection or whatever, like, both parties will be okay with the other one occasionally ghosting, because they'll be like, well, yeah, that's fine. I get it. I gotta disappear sometimes. And knowing the other person doesn't take it in some negative way, in some way that's going to cause problems, and is going to have all these expectations and such. And it's interesting because, like, the more of that occurs between those individuals, the more sort of closeness can develop. They might actually find themselves wanting to be around each other more than they previously would want to be around, like most people. But it's about the expectation not being there as a requirement, as a priority. It's sort of like, I enjoy your company, you enjoy my company, we enjoy each other's company. Neither of us are beholden to requiring the other to give the other's company. It's like, it's kind of how it functions. Talking to a person, I admitted to me that they are paranoid about why I'm even talking to them. People usually chase status. I told them I'm developmentally fucked and never reach a milestone where I could have even remotely cared about validation. Well, I mean that, or that's the thing. Like a schizoid sense or need of validation might not be coming from a conventionally social place. Like I don't know if you would call it validation, but like I care more about the what's the word? The impact my actions have, and if they have the impact that I'm attempting to create. And then I feel good. I've learned to feel good when other people confirm that. Right? It's not really about like like, you're special, Angst, because you did this thing, and I really appreciate you, right? I've learned that, like, that's fine, because there are a lot of people that's what they're being sincere about, right? It's just not really like what like makes me feel good. I'm kind of like, I used to be more averse to it, like, ugh, but now I'm more just like, okay, right? But if somebody, I see results, right? Like, oh, this thing has actively helped me, or this thing has been something that has a positive impact, and it aligns with the positive impact I'm attempting to create. That makes me feel good. Hearing about that makes me feel good. That makes me feel like good. That makes me feel good. Like, yes, so good. Like, that feels way better than like just somebody saying like, oh, thank you so much, Angst. You're so like great for doing this. Like, yeah. Just hearing their stories about how it's been helpful to them. That's like, yeah. I find agency reassurance very tricky. It can become kind of a dependency or permission to hold agency, and then it's no longer real. I think it needs to be afterwards. Yeah. How many people do you interact with in person in an average week? Me? Are you asking me? A lot, because I work. When I was doing remote work, a lot less, and I enjoyed that far more. Now I'm like seeing people all the time, and I have to talk to people all the time and be around people. Luckily, this job, it's hell for a variety of reasons that I went into in my little anti-capitalistic ramble about warehouse exploitation and fast fashion bullshit. But maintain agency and hold your wants, needs for the full interaction, and later on get reassurances you haven't damaged anything and don't need to withdraw. Like 6, 7? I don't, what do you mean? Like more? Because like, okay, look, let me explain my situation. Obviously my wife and my kids, so that's 3. But those are interactions I generally enjoy. But even my wife understands that. Like, I need occasionally moments of isolation from even them, right? Like I need time, some time. And then I'm good. And then that allows me to enjoy those moments with them more, right? So that's 3, I guess. But then there's obviously like extended family on their side. So those are more like, oh, I can find some kind of, oh yeah. But like I don't want to be like constant, but I do have to, interact with them like pretty often. And that's not bad because I don't really have they already know how I am. They know I'm kind of like solo dolo, and so it's not like a big deal. Right. And then at work there's just like, constant, some people just approach you, some people just want to talk, some people whatever. I don't know. Oh, 6, 7. Oh yeah, I got it. Oh, you're asking the chat. So interestingly enough, see, one way that I differ significantly than I guess your average Zoid is that I really enjoy conversation. I just don't like the social aspects that get like tied into conversation. Like the social strings attached to conversation is what I have a more negative experience with. Or just kind of like, it's not my deal. But conversation itself about topics of varying interest and discussion and back and forth, and educating myself through the words of others that might know more about something than me. That's really fun for me. I really like doing that. My boss and a lady I owe because my dog's with her. Well, there you go. Like, if like it in all reality, like how much social interaction would I need to satisfy my the needs I have that I now understand? It would just be wife, kids, and a handful of friends that are all online. Those would be like in the want need department now. But like even the online ones, I like that they're kind of in spurts. Like in spurts, I like that. Like my friend Melee, like I haven't seen them in a while, and they no, sometimes I'll miss them, but that doesn't mean anything. Like just because I miss hanging out with somebody doesn't mean there's any obligation there. It's just like when the person is available, it's gonna be cool, and it's generally just playing video games or watching stuff, and that's about it. And I really enjoy those moments. They're cool. That's it. It's like pretty cut and dry. But but it'll be in spurts. Like I'll maybe hang out with them like like a night or two in a row or something for some reason or another, and then like I don't know, it'll be like a month, 2 months or whatever, or it'll be like once a month here and there, and that's like I'm just fine with that amount, and they seem to be just fine. Now, like I said, if that amount increases, that's fine. Like, but if it suddenly decreases, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, it's very different. I don't think most people can handle that. When, you know, and I'm talking about like, I'm not talking about they're like, oh, they're just a friend I have. Like, you know, people will have like a lot of, no, this is like, I consider them a very close friend, a very, very close friend, like a really, like a, you know what I'm saying? Like that's my friend. Like, we're buds, we're homies. But usually people, when they have like these kind of best friends or whatever, they're like, they interact, they have like, they both want to interact with each other or have expectations of interacting with each other at, you know, certain intervals, and not seeing them for a long time is like, will have a negative impact or bring up concern or something. Nah, it's not like mania, I don't think. It's just like if my friend Melee said, hey, can we hang out? I'd be like, yeah, that sounds cool. Right? But if I said, nah, I'm like really hyper focused on this other activity, I kind of want to do it solo, they'd be like, cool, enjoy. And that's it. And vice versa. If either of us started saying stuff like, oh, well, that sucks, you don't ever want to hang out with me anymore, I don't know I can't even imagine that. Like, both of us just want to vomit in our mouths. Situations like, no, please, no, God, no. Like, and if that's how the other person felt, it's like, this is a bad idea. This is a real bad idea. That's why I want people, even now, I have like I guess I would be like a work friend, when I was doing like a lot of the remote stuff. They're not zoidic at all. They're very ADHD and stuff, and they got their own stuff going on, but no, they enjoy that kind of stuff, like the whole like not conventional, but like, you know, like just friendships and hanging out and like, oh, it'll be really cool and all this sort of stuff, and you know, these kind of social sort of expectations that are pretty normal for people to have that consider each other to be close friends and stuff. But I established early on, like, I'm not that's not what I'm about. So if that's what you're about and you expect me to do that, it's not going to work. So, but they're highly metacognitive. So they're just like, that's cool. Like, because they got other people in their lives. Like, so it's like, so it works pretty good in that sense. Like, it's cool. Like, I like working with them. But if they started saying like, hey, it's been a long time, I want to hang out, I feel like you don't want to hang out with me. Oh, dude, they already know. Like, keep that shit on check, because I can't, like, I am not the person you can apply that stuff to. Apply it to everybody else where that's normal. So, and you know, it's good. Sometimes I would be in a VC while watching 3 separate streams and actively engaging, but I realized it was overstimulating, so I stopped. Well, maybe because you know, you're actively engaging in a way that, like, is being like it's happening because of like you're I don't know, pantomiming like what you think you should be doing and saying in those types of interaction. Are you masking? You know what I mean? Like, because if you're doing like all this stuff that you don't want to do alongside the activity, yeah, I mean, that might be overstimulating for sure. Like for example, like on the Zoid Void, if I'm like on there, or anybody's on there, there's a general expectation, watch out, that if the person jumps in, that there's no expectation, you know, of like, they need to talk, they need to chat, they need to interact, they need to do this, they need to do that. They just do whatever they're comfortable doing. And if it's just lurking, just chilling, not saying a fucking word, that's absolutely fine. And also, if anybody says otherwise on that particular support relatability server, they're the problem, not the person that just wants to lurk or doesn't feel like talking and just wants to, like, yeah, the person that's like, oh, why aren't you, if somebody's like, why aren't you talking, like, we're looking at them, not the person that doesn't want to talk. We're looking at them like, why the fuck are you doing that? What the fuck are you doing? That's like, this ain't fucking, that's not what's happening in this space. That's not, nah. You're actively like fucking up that Zoidy person's chances of like starting to come out of their hidey hole. Like, and that is not like like, because that's the thing with, like, what's really interesting about Zoids is that they tend to be highly conscientious of autonomy stuff. Like, because of the autonomy sensitivity, they're incredibly sensitive to other people's autonomy as well. Right? So it's like, I wouldn't want somebody to expect me to talk or do certain things, so I'm not going to have that expectation on them type of beat. So generally you'll find, like, there's always on, they might say like, hey, what's up? I'll say, hey, what's up? I'll be like, oh, what's up? And if I don't hear VC or any response, I go, oh, well, if you want to chat about whatever it is I'm rambling about or showing, drop it in the VC chat. If you don't, whatever, that's fine, just chill. I establish very simple parameters, and the only expectation is that you don't act like some fucking troll piece of shit that like tries to infringe upon my own autonomy or what I'm trying to do or enjoy. Like, it's very simple, and I won't do that to you. Like, that's it. Like, it's not that complicated. Well, that's the thing. You can actually actively On oh shit, I gotta end this. But on the Zoid Void server, you can actively engage a person and be like, hey, is this like, is me like chatting, like, am I, you know, you can ask, and they can be like, no, it's fine. Like, I don't care. It's good. Like, you know, if there's concerns like that. I mean, it can't be constant, because then that's that becomes its own kind of annoying. Just let a motherfucker lurk. Like, come on. Yeah, that's why you can just fucking lurk. Lurkers welcome. Because the only way you can get a lurker, a zoidy lurk, like a schizoid lurker, to stop lurking is to not even get to, it's one, to not try to get them to do anything, right? But the only way they will want to do more than lurk, is a better way to put it, is by there being no expectation that they can't lurk. They might make a conscious choice to engage, and even if they do, they don't want this new expectation that they must engage every time they jump on to be created. And yeah, the Zoid Void is very, very aware of those types of things. You'll see it. But also I have another server. I've been just so fucking depressed because of this job. It's fucking me up so bad. But anyway, but I need it because money's, but I'm still looking for more remote work like I was doing before. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I have another server. That one is called the Angsty Divergent. That server is going to be made for anybody. It's going to be like a open server for anybody that like wants to join it, or that likes the channel, wants to talk about the stuff I talk about, or just wants to talk about other weird shit, or and stuff like that. The only kind of like rule there is I want to emphasize good faith conversation. Right, good faith conversation. Like that's kind of like the more kind of focus. Like if you're there just to be like to fight people, if you're there just to push your own agenda and not listen to anybody, if you're there to like devalue everyone else's opinions or thoughts, like to make yourself feel big and strong and better, like go do that somewhere else. There's plenty of fucking servers for that kind of shit. Like go, but if good faith conversation amongst weirdos is kind of what I want. That's what I want to see. Good faith conversation amongst weirdos. Right. Bunch of autists and schizos, just like having cool discussions about stuff without it turning into like a dick measuring contest and shit like that. That's kind of like what I want to see on that server. So yeah, I want to see every ADHDs, the fucking Zoids and the typals and the avoidance. As long as they're the kind of person that can keep their shit in check enough to make conversations just be good faith without big fucking spirals, yeah, exactly, then we good on that server. So the Angsty Divergent. And when I say divergent there, I'm not just talking about neurodivergent, I'm also talking about just like socially divergent people, you know. But usually, you know, the most socially divergent people tend to be pretty neurodivergent. So, yeah. But yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna take off. If you like the streams, I hope I can do them on Tuesdays again, or like at least 2 or 3 times a week again. But until I find a remote job or a job that doesn't have the hours that I have to work, I can only stream on Saturday. That's kind of why I wanted to make it a bit longer, until I ramble on. But yeah, I'm sorry I can't do the more than that at the moment. Trust me, I hate that I can't, because I have to do this warehouse job. Like, it's just like, ugh, that kills me. Cause I'm like, I hate, like, I'm like, I want to just be talking about stuff. I'm thinking about stuff and looking up stuff. I don't want to do this shit where I'm just like mindlessly walking like 10,000 plus steps of shit. Fucking scanning bullshit. Like, I don't want to do that. That's not something I want to do. The worst part is they don't let me wear like, it kills my ADHD. They don't let me wear headphones. So I can't listen to podcasts. I can't listen to music. I can't listen to books on tape. Like, I'm supposed to be a mindless fucking drone. And I just can't, man. My brain ain't wired that way. I can't just do that shit. Like, I can't just zone out and do that. Like, and be like, because like my brain wants to do stuff. It wants novelty. My ADHD ass like wants things going in and out of it. And there's no neurons firing in that place. There's nothing to do. It's not hard. It's just tiring and repetitive. It's killing me. Everything there reminds me of exploitation and environmental damage and human misery. So yeah, it sucks. Oh, I gotta go. Who's calling me? Oh, forgot to answer them. All right. As usual, when day is dark, always remember, happy day. Support me on Patreon, like, subscribe, all that dumb shit that you have to say. And PayPal is great too. So if you want to buy me a beer, send it my way. I appreciate it. I'm not gonna hit you up and be like, oh, thank you so much. Like, if I do, you can tell me to fuck off. Like, you know, whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever you need. Peace.